Good.
Uh-huh.
So,
Well,
very
go ahead,
good morning. Thank you, Sam. Very good morning, America. Good evening, India. This is Sean Shankaran, General Secretary, Indian Overseas Congress. I am with our beloved chairman, Sam Pitroda, to here today talk about women's safety. Today we have our guest, Professor Sujata Ramdurai, who is going to enlighten us more about society sensitization. More. Without much ado, I'll hand it over to Sam Pitroda quickly for giving us a context introduction, and then I'll get Sujata on board. That's it.
Greetings from Chicago. Thank you, Sean, Priyamvada, and all my other colleagues for organizing this. Really appreciate all your effort as always. Sujata, welcome to this group. We meet every Saturday morning for last, I believe, about 20, 30 weeks and talk about various topics of interest to young people. We get several hundred young people to listen, and later on maybe several thousand get chance to review it. So we are delighted with some of the support we have received. And for last couple of weeks, we have been talking about women's safety, security, the respect they deserve from all of us. And we are all really concerned about what is going on in India. You see it on television day in, day out for the last few days about what happened in Calcutta and what has been happening all along. We had a case which got a lot of publicity some time ago, Nirbhaya case. And we thought that things would have changed by then. But it turns out that nothing much has changed. Everyone is discussing this issue vis-a-vis what should government do, what new policies should be implemented. We have a lot of good policies, but we don't implement it properly. So a group of us had an opportunity to take this forward a little bit in terms of conversation. Maria joined us, and few software experts joined us. And we realized that this is indeed a very complex issue, and we need to look at not just from the point of government and policies and police, but we should look at this as a serious mental issue. We should think about families, communities, schools, colleges, workplaces, factories, government offices. And we really need to start a movement from bottom up to really learn to respect our women, our sisters, our friends, our cousins, our nephews, our mausi, our auntie, our mother, our, grandmother. This has been part of our culture. But at the same time, we know what goes on in every village. And this is of great concern to India right now. And unless and until there is a movement at all levels, this will remain an issue for people to discuss for a while, and then we'll go back to normal. Sujata Ramadurai, Dr. Sujata Ramadurai is a very close friend. She worked with us as a distinguished member at the National Knowledge Commission and many other initiatives during Dr. Manmohan Singh's time. She's a distinguished mathematician, professor. She teaches in Canada, India. She travels between Canada, India, and Germany, where her daughter is, and I have had some great time with Sujata. I went to Canada, spent some time with Sujata and her husband, and I must say that she's one of the key younger member of our team that meets every Thursday, and she adds a lot of value to what we discuss. So when I requested Sujata to join us, she readily agreed. I know it's 7 o'clock in the morning in Vancouver, where she is the professor at. And Sujata, welcome. I will turn it over to Sujata, and then we'll open up for a normal, broader conversation we have. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam. Thanks, Shan. Yeah, like Sam said, we've been meeting and I've been expressing my personal concern at somehow becoming a nation of people who have become desensitized to violence in general and particularly violence against women. Historically, we know that, from time immemorial, we know that women and children are the worst affected in times of war, drought, famine, and so on. And one thought that in modern times this will improve when there are no wars, but this has taken a more serious, dangerous turn. And somehow we seem to get on with it and we seem to accept it, which seems very dangerous and frightening for me. And from my experience, I think technology adds to the problem. It can be used to solve the problem, but it also adds to the larger problem. And one way to get us out of this morass is sensitization at every level of the society. I have seen this work in my own limited area of mathematics, where there's not a big cohort of women at various levels, except maybe as school teachers, college teachers, and so on. But at the research level or students in STEM areas, both here and in India, and I have talked to people about it, and especially girls, and I noticed that there was a palpable change when the broader cohort, that is both men and women, understood the problems. And both in India and here, I noticed that when we have discussions and men are sensitized, the boys are sensitized, the male cohort is sensitized, then they immediately become more empathetic, and then they become part of the solution. And I think in India and more generally in the world, I think we should think about how this can be achieved at various levels. Patriarchy is one of the biggest problems, and around the world, with all these uh, I don't know what they are called, alpha male leaders, violence has become normalized. And this calls for a grassroots movement, and also movement at the level of policy making, insistence on society accepting what a woman's rights are and taking steps to protect them, and so on. And we can go to talk about it. And even the media reporting has become, I mean, it's, I would say, crass. It doesn't go to the real picture, or doesn't try to solve or add common values to solving the problem, but rather focuses on triviality and then who to blame and so on. And this is where I blame technology. For instance, in all these recent cases that we've been talking about with the mobile phones and so on, it's the most lurid details of what happened, how the violence was perpetrated. And this has almost led, at least from my understanding of the media reports, after the Nirbhaya case, when there was graphic details, now all the violence seems to want to be better than that, quote unquote. So how do we address this? How do we bring back the shock and horror? And for this, again, we need to talk to women reporters, both men and women reporters, and society at large. So I think I'll stop here and we can discuss other problems, and I can share my limited experience along the course of the conversation. Thanks.
Thank you, Sujata. So thanks for taking time out to join us. So I have some key questions. Sam last week asked us to suggest a kind of plan of action. He wanted to decide, identify 10 actions by family, community, school, colleges, businesses, governments, NGO, media, police, courts, facilities, transport. So I just want to pick your thought on what do you think about family. So I think you touched upon a very important area. Society sensitization need to start from family. Yesterday, while we were kind of prepping up for this, and so I just want to hear your thinking. So why families need to be sensitized on this gender thing? Start right from home.
Right, families need to be sensitized because we are increasingly, in a nuclear family and nuclear families, and then of course India has been a patriarchal society, and now with nuclear families and fewer children, it's mostly the male children who get attention. And so, how do we get parents and the larger community to believe in the value of a girl child, and that a girl child, empowered girl child, is in fact better than, probably better than a male child? So we should have various, and this is something I've been talking about for, just after India's broadcasting scene opened after liberalization, when we had all these foreign channels come on, and even in India we had all these very interesting serials which somehow attracted the nation's attention. And I wanted, and this was a suggestion I posed to various people, that they should make serials about very strong women who have emerged from, it's not necessarily the middle class or upper middle class. In every family, you'll hear stories about somebody's grandmother who came up in the most difficult of circumstances. And similarly, among the poor, urban poor, even today, I notice that the urban poor that I know and that I talk to, it's always the male children who are caught up in bad habits or who are not serious about their lives. Whereas the girls, because whenever they get an opportunity to study, they really take it seriously and they want to do more and so on. So, how do we encourage that? So, that's at the societal level. And second, at the level of education, talking of plans of action, education, even today, if you open a textbook, you'll have cursory look, will show you that there are very few women figures. So somehow this subliminal message of a woman's worth has to go from a very young age. So at most there will be some cursory mention of some freedom fighters, or how Mahatma Gandhi's wife supported Mahatma Gandhi in the freedom movement or something like that. But never any strong stories about women who fought against all odds to succeed. And we have so many stories in India and also around the world. Like in science itself, to give you an example, there was this very famous woman mathematician from the 19th century, pre Second World War, called Emmy Noether, and her theorem is supposed to be considered, is still considered as one of the most beautiful theorems. It's at the interface of maths and physics and so on. But Noether had this, no, I won't say problem, but she had this situation where both her father and brother were scientists, though they did not contribute as much as she did. And to this day, when somebody says Noether, they assume that it's a father or the brother, that is, it's a male, that it's not a woman. And there was one woman who wrote a biography about her, and this was in the United States. And she said, had I known when I was in school or college that this Noether was a woman, and of the fantastic achievements that she had gone on to achieve in her life, it would have changed my own perspective about becoming a scientist. I would have become a scientist. So we need to reinforce these values and these role models and so on. So that's at the level of education. That's a very basic thing. And then in the at offices, in Tata Institute, I was at Tata Institute of Fundamental Research in Bombay. When I was there, we used to go to various institutions in India, central government universities. And to this day, I can tell you the women's toilet is extremely unsafe. You cannot bolt it from the inside. And I know in Indore, for instance, when I visited Indore Central University, the women professors would go home to use their toilet because the toilets in the universities were unusable. So things like this, why don't you create safe places within your workplace? And we had to fight to get a toilet in the third floor at the Tata Institute. Now, we had to sign a petition and all of this. I think it should be part of it. Should be somehow the basic safety protocols should be in place.
Agree. So what we did, Sujata, we met as a small group, including Suresh and Maria, Priyavada, Sean, and I, and we put together a list of about 20 points. And we said on each of these points, we need 10 points. What should people do at workplace? Like your bathroom idea. Okay, is one point that everybody must focus on providing safe place for women at work, factory, hospital, everything. So we need to really create a movement at various levels. It is not a government policy issue, like we said before. We need to know what everyone is going to do in their area. And that's the reason we feel we need series of conversations. We also need a portal to inform people, interact with variety of people on these issues, and really come up with 10-point program for various groups,
Yeah.
schools, colleges, family, community. Promote that. I'll give you one simple example. When I became chairman of the Telecom Commission in 89, 88, I decided to print a code of conduct, a big document with 10 points. And I had a lot of resistance from people saying, sir, what you are telling us is that we don't follow it. I said, look, if you follow it, fine. If you don't follow it, that's also fine. Sign it and display in your office. It says that I'll be honest, I'll be open, I'll be transparent, I'll be a team player, I will not take bribe. You need these kinds of points for everyone on women's safety. And then only it will become a movement. Otherwise, all these people will discuss on TV and debate and score points, and nothing will get done. So thank you, Sujata.
Yeah, I agree. One related point, Sam, in Bangalore, I mean, we should get in touch with women's groups who know and
Mhm.
who have, who have come up with solutions which work and also identified the
Sure,
mistakes one can make. So
sure,
that's one thing I would suggest.
sure,
But
definitely.
but the second thing is in Bangalore, for instance, for a very long time, it went on for years in Kaban Park, which is in the center of the city and quite a well-known area, and people always drive past that and so on. So women, one of the women's organizations in Bangalore, every Thursday they would dress in black. This was long before the internet age, before modern communication age, and so on.
Mhm.
And they would just stand there holding placards, or not even holding placards, but just holding hands. Not generally, not necessarily women, even men participated, but they would all be dressed in black. And then they would just stand, and then this caught the attention of the people who were driving by, so they stopped by, and then they would distribute leaflets or tell them. And in fact, at that week, if there had been something particularly outrageous, then they would talk about that and so on. So this actually made it known that there was a women's group in Bangalore, and people could approach that if they had questions, or if they had issues or good practices, questions about good practices, bad practices, and so on. So today, with communication having changed, I think, like you say, some basic do's and don'ts, and
Right.
also some more information once we have roped in the professionals on what works, what doesn't work, and so on. All this can be collated and distributed both in workplaces and in at grassroots level, at anganwadis or at schools and so
Absolutely.
on.
That's a good idea also. Anganwadi is a good idea. We should make a note of that.
Correct. There are a few questions from the audience. Let me ask.
Please, go ahead.
One from our IOC member Anup Hivale, father of Maria here on the stage. So he has a question for Sujata. Did you ever feel that your neighborhood was unsafe while growing up in India? Do you think women's safety is an urgent need in India today?
You
It's
know,
for you, Professor Sujan.
yeah. Okay, so I grew up in Bangalore. Bangalore, of course, my parents would advise me not to be by myself after dusk and so on. Um, but this was in the 70s, 80s, but I didn't really feel unsafe. There was the odd stray case where, somebody, there would be a not such pleasant experience or somebody following you when you got off the bus station and so on. But I knew that I could immediately alert the others in the bus. Like if somebody touched me and I felt it was inappropriate, I would openly say it. I would say, please move away. And then the others in the bus would support me and so on. And then I moved to Bombay. And then Bombay was extremely safe. I cannot tell you. I mean, it was a world apart. I used to travel both within and outside the country. And there were times when I've taken the Bombay local at 2 in the morning, 2 a.m. in the morning, and so on, and never felt unsafe. There were some practical things that people would advise. I would say, even if it's a woman's compartment, don't get into a woman's compartment after night or very early in the morning. Get into a common compartment rather than a woman's compartment.
Mhm.
And I never felt unsafe in Bombay. And the first time I heard about women's safety being a serious issue was from my friends in Bangalore who had moved to Delhi. And they would say how they miss being in Bangalore because they cannot even imagine something like going out by themselves in the evening or having a dinner with friends and coming home by themselves and so on. So Delhi was notorious already 30 years back, 35 years back. And it's just got worse.
Mhm.
But now, unfortunately, I cannot say the same thing. My daughter grew up in Bombay, and again, I wouldn't worry about the times when she went out with friends. I would just tell her at that time there was a phone, and I would just say, give me a time when you're coming back home and make it a point to call me to inform me if you're late. And that was good enough for me and her that I felt safe. But I don't think I would advise it with my granddaughter now if she came to India and if she wanted to go out with friends. I would feel very nervous. I would insist on knowing who she was going out with, where she was going, so on.
Mm.
So it's changed.
Sounds good. Suresh Wallat from YouTube is asking, Indian movies are full of misogynistic dialogues, and so we should have a film certification code that take care of this. Look at the Hema Committee report on sexual abuse among Malayalam movie artists. You have any
And
thoughts?
Yeah, I completely agree. And in fact, somebody pointed out that if you look at the slangs or curse words in India, most of them are somehow women based.
mhm.
You can't think of many curse words which are completely male
Mm.
or where women are not stigmatized. And of course, the movies, there are any number of examples where violence against women is also seen as a show of masculinity. It's an index of masculine behavior. And we see this even at home, right? When a child is growing up, when if it's a boy, oh, that's okay. Of course, he's a boy. And there should be these messages, no, it's not okay. Even if he is a boy, certain aspects of behavior are not okay. Full stop.
So, okay, I have another comment from LinkedIn. So the name is not reflecting. Well said, Sam. Need of the hour. India certainly has lost its sheen with the record of sexual crimes against women. We truly need to build a safer place for our daughters and the kick-ass needs for start from Bihar and UP. Any thoughts, Sam?
Well, I think he has a point that North, especially Bihar and UP, are notorious for these kinds of things, unfortunately. And I have seen from my own experiences that North has a different attitude toward women than South has. I went to school in Baroda, and we had no issue with women's safety at all in those days. Again, Sujata talked about 70s and 80s, and I can tell you about 50s and 60s. Okay, no issue at all. I think as time went on, rather than things getting better, things got worse. And that is the sad part. With modernization, technology, awareness should have changed. People should have been more open, more, respectful, but it went the other way. And that bothers many of us.
Surya Kiran from LinkedIn saying definitely crimes against women is a big problem and I'm very concerned. But one thing I have an issue is purely blaming patriarchy or hanging dads for scolding once or twice. This only dilutes the bigger problem that we are tackling. I'm sure moms scolding their kids as well, or maybe slap the posterior of the kids irrespective of gender, and rightfully so. There is a bigger problem with the crimes against women, and I sincerely hope does not end up us hanging the dads for an anger burst or
But
something
let me
not.
let me tell you, I understand as a dad he may feel this way or that way, but problem is never black and white. It is never yes and no. Okay, so if somebody says do this, that doesn't mean this is it. It is always that gray area. It is never absolute. You can't say, okay, because the way you are treating boys like this is the only reason. It is a reason. It's a major reason. Degree of it might change. Degree of that in your experience would be different from my experience. Your father may be very different from my father. Okay, your family would be very different from my family. But the issues remain same. It's the degree that changes. So I won't get too hung up on the degree of it. If somebody feels very strong about something, that's because their personal experiences tell them something different than what we have experienced. And this is where I have problem with a lot of debates in India. When you say, when you look at conversation in India, it's very emotional because people take very strong positions based on their experiences, their interpretation. And in the process, they do not respect other people's experience, other people's perspective, their upbringing, because people come from different background. So somebody might feel that the dad saying this is okay, and the other might feel that the dad saying this is absolutely not okay. And third person may say it's once in a while it's okay. So we got to be open to that kind of gray area. And I recommend that we all work with respect for the others in that gray area and not jump to conclusions, not jump the gun and criticize somebody saying, oh, but you are absolutely wrong. No, that is never the case. Okay. If we look at from other people's perspective, things will look very different. So don't take very hard positions.
Yeah, that is a question for you, Sam. How can we draft a moral guideline for Indian communities that would guarantees women's safety? Additionally, where can we find the foundational basis for the morality from Hivale?
I think it begins at home, personally. While we are growing up, home meaning not just family, but also community, neighborhood, street you live on, schools you go to. Okay. And basically, die is cast very early, much earlier than we all think. Your die is basically cast before you are 10. Of course, it changes in some cases here and there. But children become violent early because they see violence. They see abuse at home, they see abuse on the street, they see fights. So I am firm believer in childhood experiences. They really mold your future. I grew up in a small little village, was born in British Raj. So things were very different then. The atmosphere was full of hope because of independence. So everybody was charged up and everybody was feeling good and everybody said, oh, we are now independent nation. It was a different environment. And Gandhi was the role model for the country. So everybody believed in simplicity, truth, trust, love, inclusion, all these things that we take for granted today was a way of life then. Now it has changed. Now it is Me Too culture. So it all depends on your childhood upbringing. If we focus enough at home, neighborhood schools, by the time you are 10, I think your chances are much better that you'll have a safer society. You know.
Okay. There is a kind of a request for expanding a recent whatever Rahul tried talking about this teaching self-defense to kids. We have Mr. Rajendra Amonkar. He's talking about women's safety will come from train modern Indian women in sports like karate, judo, kung fu, compulsory for students right from KG level. All job seekers should have necessary training in self-defense. So, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I'm a firm believer in non-violence. Safety and non-violence, there is sort of a very fine line. If somebody attacked me, I wouldn't start fighting with him personally. But girls would think differently, and I respect that. Okay. If somebody hit me, it won't bother me. I won't hit back. Guaranteed. It's just not my reaction, normal reaction. Okay. Now, one could say you're wrong. One could say, no, you should hit back. Okay. So it all depends on where you come from. Okay.
Let's hear Sujata. Yes, yeah, go
I
ahead.
would not teach, my grandkids how to fight. Okay. But if you want to teach, that's also okay. So it varies again, But self-defense is important. People should learn. Okay. And you should be equipped. If you live in certain areas, you may need self-defense as a way of life. Okay.
Sounds good. Go ahead, Sujata. What are your thoughts about teaching self-defense at multiple levels?
It's an option. I wouldn't make it compulsory, but there has to be systemic change and also structural changes. For
Right.
instance, we know of the recent case in Uttar Pradesh. We had a woman wrestler, not that she could not defend herself. But when the system conspires against you defending yourself, no amount of self defense is going to work. So this is assuming we want to set a stage where we are assuming that there will be violence against women and therefore women should defend themselves. I would rather have a society where we prepare so that there's no violence against women. And to the gentleman's comments earlier about not blaming men alone, no, that's not the point. The point is women could be as much as a problem, but men should largely be part of the solution.
Sure. Sounds good. I'll hand the mic to Priyamata. Go ahead, Priyamata. You have any questions to Sujata and also any other comments? Please.
Yeah, thank you, Sam. Thank you, Sean, and thank you, Sam, sir. Sujata, ma'am, just one question. Like, we had this case in Maharashtra where, kindergarten school girls, like aged 4 and 6, were unfortunately sexually abused. So, how, regarding this gender sensitization, how would you think that, it should start early, especially involving boys who are at young age? So what are the steps you think that the schools should undertake to see that these such events don't happen, and also the background checks of the staff, because I don't think we are serious at all when we employ anyone in school or colleges. There we check their background, like what background they are coming from. Like they have these checks in the West. So I was just like, your thoughts about this, like two
Yeah,
issues.
as far as I know, there haven't been extensive reports in the media, so I don't know the whole story. But from my limited reading, it seems that they failed even on the most basic things. Like, why would you have a young girl child going to the toilet be escorted by a male whose background hasn't been checked? CCTVs are missing. I mean, even the days when I was going to school 40 years back, we had women ayahs who would escort the girl students to the bathroom. There were no CCTVs then, but this basic protocol was in place. And then, at a very young age, girls should be taught about what is the right form of touch, what is the wrong form of touch. This is routinely done in Western countries. It shouldn't take a child or the parents to figure out that something is wrong because the child doesn't know how to talk about it.
Very true. Yeah.
Thank you. So, what do you think the schools, like, should it be compulsory to, have these kind? I'm not sure if these
Absolutely,
trainings
have
are in
women
place.
ayahs escort girls, and if it's a male eye, and then the teacher should be watchful. If a child is missing from class, then find out why. I mean, going to a washroom should not take more than 10 minutes. Have CCTVs, and then have the teacher ask the child if everything was okay. These are small behavioral cues that the teacher should be trained to watch out for.
Good point.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you.
Raj, you have any questions? You're on stage.
Yeah, I have a suggestion.
Yeah, please. Do it quick, please.
Hello. Yeah,
Yeah.
everything emanates from strength, and I think the girls and entire women folk should be trained in self-defense courses like karate, judo, and all this. If that is, and it should be compulsory for employment. Any employable lady should be compulsorily trained in all this.
Thank you,
No,
Raj.
Then
I share.
only,
Yeah. I
no.
just shared your suggestion. Go ahead, sir.
yeah,
No, this is adding another barrier to women's
Right.
employment. First of all, it's
Exactly.
not clear if the
Exactly.
society or if the
They do that.
family will let a girl child go through. I mean,
They
it's
not do
difficult
that.
enough to get the girl child to go to school.
No, that's not acceptable.
Thank you, Raj, for the suggestion. We already discussed. So I have a question from Prasanna from LinkedIn. So how can we as a society keep the conversation around violence against women alive and maintain sensitization until we see genuine progress in changing mindsets rather than letting the issue fade after a sudden burst of attention? Sujata?
I again, this is something I've been telling Sam that all the political parties, civil society, everybody, let's organize a protest maybe once a year in memory of the violence against women victims and also sensitize the larger society. Talk about it. And for instance, I gave you this example in Bangalore, women in black. Every Thursday, people just standing wearing
Sujata,
black dress. Yeah.
I have a better idea suggested by another friend of mine. It's not my original idea. That once in a year, all women should stop working. No cooking at home, no making beds, okay? No going to office, and let the man know what it means to have women around. Just take one day off. The nation goes, you know, without women for a day. No cooking, no cleaning, nothing. And then they'll realize what it
Yeah.
means. Okay? Because I see a lot of kids used to saying, Mom, give me this, Mom, give me that. Okay, I'll give you one simple personal example if you don't mind. It will take about 2-3 minutes, unfortunately. My daughter, when she was at the University of Michigan, went to India on some special course, and she was sent to a family in Jaipur where there were 3 girls and 1 boy. So the boy would just sit around and ask sister, give me tea, give me water, get me my books, and poor girls will do all that. So my daughter, she was young then, maybe 17, 18. She saw this and she then started training these girls. They don't do it. Tell him to get his water. In 4 or 5 days, there was a problem in the family that parents said, this girl from America is teaching wrong values to our girls. saying our girls are obedient, fine, but this girl, American girl, has come and bringing Western culture in our family. And it was a big hallagulla. Okay. They were all upset and they were all not nice to Rajal. But Rajal never used her last name. Okay. She just called herself Rajal. My children don't like to use their last name. Finally, on the last day she was leaving, she was showing these pictures of her to the other three girls. And her mom saw my picture. And she said, "How do you know this man?" So Rajal says, "That's my dad." And hell broke loose because her husband was an IAS officer. She called her husband at work. Her husband came home saying, "Oh, we didn't know that you were Sam Pitroda's daughter." The point is, they think Indian values are to serve your brother. And then Rajal told them, Rajal said, "Look, you're not doing it right. Why should your girls serve your son all the time? Poor three girls just wait for order from this boy." And the boy has become useless, nasty. This is how things go on in our families. Sorry for this example.
I think that's a very common thing in Indian families, which I think Sujata also observed, right? I think which was the very perennial point of the topic today, sensitization, how it can start even right from family.
Yeah.
Other than family, Sujata, do you think are there anything at a community, school, college, or some other
Yeah.
different stakeholder level we can do?
Yeah. Get the men to be more independent in the self-sufficient. But
Yeah.
like Sam said, this experience can be turned on its head.
Yeah.
It's the Indian culture that women serve men, but it's also the Indian culture. We have Raksha Bandhan, where a man is supposed to protect a woman.
Yeah.
So where do your Indian ideals go then?
Yeah.
They go south?
I think, and the women of the house is the problem when such cases happen. They will be the first one to oppose,
Correct.
women liberal, like anything against her son. So
Yeah.
women need to
I
also,
gave that example.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's why I said women can be part of the problem, but men have to be part of the solution. So this again calls for sensitization at the level of families where mothers are also told, look, it's not that your son's value is going down just because he learns to cook and takes care of himself and learns to become less violent and respectful.
Thank you, Sujata. I'll quickly hand over the mic to Maria. Maria, you have any quick asks, questions to Sujata, Professor Sujata?
Thank you, Mr. Sean. Thank you, Dr. Pitroda, and thank you, Sujata, Dr. Sujata as well. I think something that um, was very highlighted to me in this conversation today was your need that you expressed for teaching the nonverbals to teachers in schools so that they know how to identify kind of what's going on. Um, would you please be willing to further expand on that so that we can brainstorm ideas of how to add this to our call of
Plan.
action?
Yeah, I mean, in this case, I'm really shocked that it took the family to figure out that there was something wrong. If the child, I mean, I'm just imagining myself being a teacher in that classroom and the child coming back after using the washroom, later than usual. I should have first noticed as a teacher that the child has taken longer. And if it is systemic, each time the child goes, then maybe there's something wrong with the child. And then I would ask the child, what happened? Are you well? Why does it take you such a long time? And so on. And then obviously the child is in distress. So you cannot escape these cues of distress. And so the teacher should have created the environment where the child would have first felt confident enough to escalate it with the teacher. Why should it happen 2 or 3 days after the child goes home and then the parents notice that the child is at extreme discomfort and doesn't want to use the washroom and so on? But
Also,
even simpler, here is where technology could have helped. Put a CCTV and have the authorities of the school check the CCTV every day. But this is not a solution because I know that the CCTV can easily become
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
you can tamper with it, and then they'll say the CCTV doesn't work, and then the school immediately looks at this as an excuse not to have CCTVs.
yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But more simple things, let's have a woman escort.
Hmm.
Would would you suggest having pre-trainings for these teachers where they're taught
Absolutely,
communication
yeah,
skills?
absolutely. Making the classroom a safer space, making the teachers know how to look out for, distress, and also how do you tell the children that it is fine to tell the teacher anything of this kind,
Mm-hmm.
what is appropriate, what is inappropriate, and so on.
Right. Do you think that um, this would be essential to teach to the students as well in the same sense? So
Sure.
born in
Yeah,
America.
there I think the education can come from the family, not necessarily from the teacher. But
Okay.
this is not the first time that something like this is happening in Bangalore. I know that there were previous cases in schools where there were issues like this, and I'm wondering why the schools don't wake up.
Hmm. I know.
This just repeats.
It's horrible.
And then the authorities can become, the enforcement authorities can become firmer on these points, cancel the school's license if something like this happens, zero tolerance for something like this, so that the other schools are careful.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just to add to this, actually, Dr. Sujata, the thing was in this case in Mumbai, the school belonged to a person who was politically associated. So the case wasn't the FIR, whatever the uh, punishment was. The FIR wasn't filed until 7 days. So people had to come to streets. I mean, why we have to come to this level to
Exactly.
protect our own children? Like they are
Exactly. Yeah,
on
this is
school.
what I mean when I say structural problems or systemic problems. No
Yeah.
amount of self defense is going to solve this unless there is no accountability. There is no action for accountability.
And the school principal is a woman. Can you imagine, like the
Yeah,
things?
exactly. So,
Yeah. I think something that I really wish India had was something so parallel to the government that would just come in and kind of help these situations.
no, these should be possible. But again, for that, civil society has to be strengthened.
Right.
Yes.
But if we have weakened even that fabric, then,
Mm,
that will just become in India, every rule becomes an opportunity for making money.
exactly.
Mithul, you have any question? Can you be brief?
Yes, sir. So my name is Mitu Yoldandi, and I think the main problem here is our women should come across as confident and courageous. They should look men in the eye and ask them what their problem is and if they're doing okay. And if they feel uncomfortable in any kind of situation, they should address it. And they say, "I'm not comfortable being in this situation. Maybe we should meet later." So I think it's the sense of women's is susceptible to crimes when the culprit or the rapist can sense that she is insecure in some way. So if you look at the women here in the United States, it's women are more outspoken. They look men in the eye. They treat them. Everybody is treated equally, whereas in India they try to look away from them from men. So we need to address the elephant in the room. Be confident. Be more confident. Another issue is going to be the swift judicial action. We have judiciary in place, but we need swift action because the rapist, he knows that there are strict actions, but he can that can go on for 10 years, 15 years until we really see some justice. And the third thing is sex offender registry. So India needs something like a offender registry, and everywhere he goes, it should follow him. There should be background checks, and even in private sector jobs, and so that should be a big thing in India.
Thank you, Mithul. I think sex offender registry is in place. Only thing is, it's only law enforcement agencies have access. But Sujata, Sam, you have any thoughts on? You want to respond
Yeah,
to
I
this?
have, it's not, I wouldn't like to
Yeah.
Of course, there is a bigger problem in India, but I won't say that these problems are not there in the West. Let me say that there are more better mechanisms in place. For instance, in the university here, every year after the classes start and throughout the year, there are safe spaces for women where women who are working late can call up so that they're escorted home, so on. And another thing is students are educated. Students are, just because she said didn't say no doesn't mean she said yes. And let's be frank, there is violence even in the West against women.
Sure.
It's not as if there's no violence. And talking about creating confident women, that's the whole problem. We have
Yeah.
to ensure mechanisms, and that's what we are talking about. How do we do that with the participation of society? This cannot be restricted just to homes.
Yeah. It
There
comes
has
from
to be
institutional support.
yeah, it has to be a mindset change.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think something that is going to be essential for our second part of kind of keeping in our mind is having universities in India come together and really just rise up and say what's going on and have these, students are always on fire to kind of do something. So targeting that as from a sense of like moving this forward and saying, having these students write papers about this, having them do projects on this,
Yeah.
and just making it kind of essential for their coursework because they're the backbone of what's going to happen next. Um,
Thank
yeah.
you. Thank you,
Yeah,
Naveen.
that's a good point. I completely agree on that point. That's something uh, we need to ensure and just don't drop the ball on. Like, let's give a, like, I don't know if people have been keeping up with the news, but there's this sudden news about the Me Too movement in various film
Yeah.
societies in India.
Right. Right.
And I was very happy to see today that one of the leading film actors spoke up against it. And this should become a habit, just not keep quiet. Whereas I think what's happened now, oh, this happens every day, so why should I bother?
Mhm.
But I think it carries a huge weight when people who are influential talk about it. And then to have a platform where people come across and condemn this irrespective of their political or societal affiliations.
Mhm.
It's always what about oh, this happened in that state where this X party was ruling. So why are you criticizing us now? It's gone into a cycle of whataboutery, and then people just get tired and look away. So how do we get back from that and make this a point of attention again?
Mhm.
So thank you. And I'll just go to this one. So 85 rapes per every day in India. So how can we have mixed education promotion which can help us? It's coming comment from Suresh in YouTube. Any thoughts, Sujata?
No,
So
that's completely right. But again, it's sensitization at schools.
schools.
And you see, I don't believe in cut and paste solutions. There are solutions you can learn which might be valid in India. But just like India succeeded somehow in at some point in the 80s and 90s, but now I think it's sort of tapering down. Our reaction to create a feminist movement in India was not a cut and paste solution from the West. It was somehow homegrown. So we need to learn from the other countries and see what is right and how do we implement that. I completely take the point, and it's comes back to some of the things that we were saying. How do we sensitize larger society? How do we educate families on what is right and what is wrong as far as nurturing is concerned, and how much leeway and space do you give children, irrespective of whether it's a boy and a girl or a girl? You can't tell a girl, look, that's not good, this is not good, but not say something similar to a boy.
Just one some simple personal example. I wish in every school they will teach cooking
Oh, yes.
to boys and girls both, because cooking is one area where you sort of normalize the platform. Today boys don't know anything about cooking. They expect only girls to cook. Okay, they think they have all the right to just eat without understanding how food is being prepared. Okay, They just assume. I have a lot of friends, they never know how to even make tea, okay, or make an omelette because they have never done it. And they are in their 70s. Yeah. So cooking should be a part of school activity where boys are also taught how to, you know, cut vegetables and how to peel onion and, all these little things that they take for granted. Then they will know what it means. Okay.
Yeah, and like I said, when you involve children from a young age and going, in my own case, I had a brother, we were very close. He passed away a decade ago, more than a decade ago, but he was my supporter. Not that my family was not supportive of me, but I very clearly remember that was the time when jeans were becoming very fashionable.
Mhm.
And I was looking, I was so wanting to wear jeans, whereas at home they would encourage me only to wear skirts or long skirts and so on. Whereas my brother stood up for me. He got his first pair of jeans and I was looking enviously at him wearing them, and he fought for me. He was maybe 10 or 11,
Mhm.
but just because we were so close, he didn't feel it was right that he should get something which I should also look forward to, which I also look forward to owning. And he said, no, no, she should wear jeans. And then I still remember my mother and father, my parents saying, no, 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 but what will people say? Something to that effect. And he said, no, people will say nothing. I will be with her if people say something.
Yep.
Yesterday, while we were speaking, Sujata, you said you got inspired by some of this feminist movement during your younger teen days in India. So, can you share a little more about it?
Yeah, I was telling Sean yesterday, my own first exposure, I would say, was after when I was in my high school. There was this big case in Bangalore where it was a rape case, but the woman in question was a sex worker. And so a large section of society assumed that it was okay. But that was Bangalore's first homegrown women's movement case where people marched out in the streets. And then for me, it was an eye opener saying, yes, they're right. Why should people assume that it's everybody's right to rape her just because she's a sex worker? And I very clearly remember, and this was Vimochana, one of the first women's groups in Bangalore. They carried out street marches, there were articles in the newspaper. So families became aware of this problem, re examining their own belief systems, talking about it, and so on. Whereas today, with so much technology, so much freedom, I was just reading this article a few days ago. This is in the Wire. It's quite an interesting article, and maybe people will. I forget the title, but where Mani Mekhalai, she is. I think she's a reporter, but in this age of hyper masculinity, even women reporters get routine threats and are trolled. And she said the number of tweets and messages she got, which were abusive, and she said half the country wanted to rape me, half the country wanted to murder me, and there was nobody to stand up for her except her. She stood up for herself.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So I think we are on the top of the hour. I'll give the screen to Suresh. Suresh and myself and bunch of engineers are trying to build a solution. In fact, I want Suresh to share the screen and show where are we on that, Sam. So though we are not talking to you, Sam, and the team, I think everybody is busy and you are busy with the Rahul strip. So myself and Suresh have been spending cycles along with engineers and we have iterated. Suresh, why don't you share the screen quickly and just walk us through?
Okay. Before Suresh starts, please let me take a minute. It is not a solution. It is a platform. There is no one solution.
Yeah.
So we should not assume that we are solving the problem.
Yeah.
Okay. It is a platform which will add value to people. It will require millions and millions of us
Yeah.
to find different solutions at different level. All we can do is add to this platform, make it more accessible, and we need many more of these. Our effort is one little drop in the ocean. Let's
Yeah,
keep that in mind,
yeah. If
that
if
we
I
are
can,
not solving the problem.
right, if I can just add, I think it
See,
would
this is
also
how
be
the mindset works.
Right.
Okay. Unfortunately, people think, oh, we have a solution. We are finding a solution. No, you can't start with that mindset. But we don't even remember this. It is built in our mind.
Exactly.
Okay.
And
We don't have any bad intention, but that's how we are trained. Okay. So please remember that this is not a solution.
let me
Yeah.
give you an example. Erasure is part of the problem. Nobody remembers erasing history. So, for
Right.
instance, I was very pleasantly surprised when I came to Canada. Every year, apparently, there was a shoot or a violent incident in which women students were killed in Montreal University many years ago, and they were engineering students. And every year on that date, people around the campus, they march in memory of those students. So in India, for every violent case, why don't we draw attention? For instance, there was this tragic case in Delhi where this young girl was killed, right? She went looking for water and she was killed. So why don't you install a water cooler everywhere in her memory so that people remember, you know,
Yeah.
or in every water cooler, put that story and say, we don't want such cases to happen. We don't want young girls,
Yes.
little girls, dying because they went to get a glass of water.
Yep.
No, install a water cooler in her memory. But it was very soon forgotten. Nobody even remembers this now.
Yeah.
In the capital.
Yeah. Thanks, Suresh. Go.
Go ahead, Suresh.
Shan,
Thank you, Suresh.
can I just ask one question, Shan, if you don't mind, please?
Yeah, please. Go ahead.
Quickly.
Yeah.
Okay. The thing is, there is a very violent behavior in this Calcutta case. So that behavior would not be just like that. He would have exhibited that kind of symptoms many times in the before.
Sure,
So
sure.
how does a family or a society figure out if somebody has this kind of violent tendencies before it happens? Is it something which is possible for the society in general to address, or
But same thing happens here when somebody starts to shoot,
yes?
leader, like what happened with the Trump shooter. That
Mhm.
behavior should have been noticed by many people, but they
No,
get
but
unnoticed sometimes.
yeah, it is noticed, but then it's accepted. Oh, boys will be boys,
Exactly.
And no, but in this
Sujata, you are on mute.
no, but in this case, it was again a structural systemic failure. Why should somebody who had no reason to be in those precincts be seen around? We still don't know the whole story, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm shocked. The women's name, all details, unwanted details leak out from the case, but there's no explanation about the background of this person. Why is this person at various places? And there are photographs where he is seen with various powerful people and so on. So, how did this come to pass? Why are we not asking those questions? Or why are we not getting answers when we ask those questions?
Mhm.
And why are we getting answers for questions we did not ask, or answers that we don't need,
Yeah.
which are all around the victim?
There is a civil society claim that there is a legislator's son involved, because of which all this hush hush. Even I think the Calcutta High Court was very, very, or even Supreme Court got involved, so moto, and both of them are really upset about the way the state handled this whole mess. And the principal got a complete clean sheet, and he got moved to another college, and he in fact tried to rush kind of hide this whole incident as a just as a no incident initially. Anyway, I think that's how I think India, the politics come into play, and
Exactly. Now
this
the
has
whole problem has become political.
true, true that.
And,
But
I would have liked, when we were talking about this case, to also remember the previous cases
yeah.
and
But
make this non-political.
Yeah. And also our civil society is suddenly become woke for one issue, right? Because of maybe the professional attention she is seeking. Otherwise, she has sought from her own community. Otherwise, we have 86 rapes, and on average,
Exactly.
India.
Yeah. But then let's not get distracted. There's nothing wrong in protesting against this. Okay.
absolutely,
But
it's
then,
okay. It becomes a symbol.
it it becomes a case of, okay, why are you protesting for this and not the previous ones? Of course, it's bad that we did not, the focus should be that it is bad that we did not protest previously. Whereas now the focus is, why are you protesting on this?
Correct.
So
It's
it
just
gets
a symbol.
distorted.
It's
Even
just
protests get distorted.
correct. It's a symbol, as Sam said. It's kind of we cannot protest for everything, but at least we are trying to voice out our sympathy for all the cases. It's not just this one case. It's how we can
Exactly.
find
So that's why I say every year, let's protest for every rape that happened, for every violence that happened, irrespective of where, when, who, gender, everything. Violence.
Yeah.
Suresh, this may not be the time to share a lot of details because I wouldn't like to share a lot of details. We don't know yet. So maybe you can share them what we are trying to accomplish.
But
Yeah.
I would
As
also
opposed to
suggest that
going
you
into
reach
design
out.
and all that stuff. Don't do that.
Yeah,
We
I
are
can
not-
connect you to a few women's groups from Bangalore.
Yes,
I would want you to talk to that
right. We'll
section.
do that. We'll do that, Sujata.
Okay,
Maybe
I'm going.
Priyambada and uh,
Yeah.
Maria can get that information from Sujata and contact them.
That
But
sounds good.
Suresh,
I'm going
we
to
are
share
not
the
there
screen.
yet to share.
Yeah, I'm going to share the screen.
It's too early.
No, just
Take
kind
your
of
time.
high level, Sam, so that we'll collect some kind of at least
Just talk about the
thinking.
concept.
So we are trying to invite people to join the community. I have shared the link on the community how people can join our WhatsApp. We have built a WhatsApp group called Speak Up, and also we have built a specification and a plan of action, and we have an idea board and idea voting board. We have a bunch of actions going on. A lot of interesting things coming along. So Suresh, let's not talk. Take a
Yeah,
long
tell
time.
people it is too early.
Yeah.
Don't jump to conclusions.
Yeah. Sure.
We are just trying to put together a platform.
Yeah.
We don't know how it is going to shape up.
Yeah.
Things are
Sure.
not frozen.
Yeah. No,
We have all in
we
our
have not built. No, I thought we may be able to take some couple of feedbacks from the community. But anyway, I'll share the link. Let the community provide the feedback to that specs. Okay, I'll go with that.
Okay.
Thank you, Suresh.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, cool.
Okay, I should be running now. Thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks,
that's
Sujata.
about it, Sujata and Sam. I think we have run past 8 minutes. Thanks a lot, team. Thanks, Maria, Priyambata, Suresh, and team.
Thank you.
Maybe next time we can do that,
Yeah,
Suresh.
Okay.
sounds good. So
Thanks,
maybe
everybody.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sean. Thanks, sir.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Sujata. Thanks, everyone.